Hey everyone, welcome to Wax Pack Wisdom, where we talk baseball history through card breaks and the cards we love. My name is Jake T. O'Donnell. Today we're opening this pack of 1996 Upper Deck Collector's Choice Baseball. You Make the Play interactive cards in this pack. This was firmly in my era of collecting. I was 10 years old at this point. Of course, I'm back in my collecting era now, but let's see what we get in this pack. The first card, I remember these cards so well. Mike Henneman, you see there, this was around the time that I'm going to adjust this a little bit. We're going to get this a little bit closer for you. There we go. All right. There we go. Much better. A little bit of in video editing there for you guys so you can see the cards a little bit closer. All right. Mike Henneman with the Astros. They are still in the National League at this point, which is kind of weird to think about. They're actually still quite a few years away from moving to the American League. But I don't really remember anything about Mike. All right. Here is... well, we got some good stuff here. Here's Curtis Goodwin. But the next one, we got All-Star. So we got that's Mike Piazza. Mike Piazza's the only name listed on this, but that's Eric Karros right there with him. But there's Mike Piazza. So we got a Hall of Famer here. The next card's a Hall of Famer as well, actually. Mike Piazza at this point is a superstar. He was like the Rookie of the Year. You see the 93. He hits 35 homers. He's Rookie of the Year of the National League in 1993. And from there, his career just takes off. And he is one of the most consistently great offensive catchers ever to play the game. It takes him a few years to get in the Hall of Fame. He finally does. There was, steroid allegations against him, but it was never, there was nothing ever really proven. He played in this era and he put up big home runs and big home run numbers, and everybody pretty much from that era is going to have that suspicion. And so that was the case with Piazza. But he was never the greatest catcher that ever lived, greatest defensively. I don't know that pitchers particularly loved to throw to him. He had a good throwing arm from behind the plate. That was about it. Of course, he is with the Dodgers for years. He goes to the Marlins very briefly and then gets traded from the Marlins to the Mets, where he spends a good chunk of his career and is on some good teams. Finishes up with the A's. I can't remember if he was played anywhere else too, but he was a low draft pick. He was a family friend of Tommy Lasorda. I think the video is on YouTube. It might not be on YouTube. It might be somewhere else. If it is on YouTube, I'll link to it. There is a video of Ted Williams watching Mike Piazza hit when he's in high school, and Ted Williams is impressed. And basically saying that this kid knows what he's doing. He can swing the bat. I don't know if you know this, but it took a lot to impress Ted Williams. So he knew right away that Mike Piazza could hit, and he ends up in Cooperstown where he belongs. As not great of as a catcher as he was defensively, it is still very hard to put up those kinds of offensive numbers while you're catching 120, 130 games a year. So he deserves a lot of credit for that. So there you go. All right, as I mentioned, the next player is also a Hall of Famer, and that is Andre Dawson. This is a tribute card. I believe this would mean that this was the end of his career. With his final home run of 1995, Dawson cracked the all-time top 10 list in home runs, tying Duke Snider for 10th. So that's pretty fascinating to think of, that at that point in his career, at that point in time, he was top 10 all-time in home runs. Facing Atlanta Steve Avery exactly 1 month earlier, Dawson socked his first Grand Slam in more than 4 years. So you see there that he spent 2 years with the Red Sox. I loved having Andre Dawson on the Red Sox. I loved getting to root for this guy. I have his 77 Topps rookie card. It is currently at PSA. Hopefully have that back in the next couple weeks. The Hawk. A pro's pro. The definition of a professional hitter. Many great years with the Expos. Even more great years with the Cubs. 1987, he's the National League MVP. I think he hit 49 homers that year? Was that? Yep, 49 homers that year. He's the MVP. And consistent, great hitter. And it took him a long time to get in the Hall of Fame, but he finally got in, and it was the right thing. And by the time he was with the Red Sox, he was pretty much a full-time DH. He really couldn't move, basically. He goes to the Marlins at the end of his career. I think he was a Florida guy, so it was kind of a big deal for him to kind of go home and wrap up his career there. I think that 95 was probably his last year. I don't know that he... Might have to look it up and see if he played 96. But that's Andre Dawson. Like I said, the Hawk, one of the all-time greats. And one of these guys, one of the things I've been doing with my personal collection is I've been collecting cards from the 70s of guys that I got to watch play in the 90s. Guys who had cards while they were active in the 1970s. And I will show those on the channel at some point, maybe once I get closer to kind of getting more of the cards in place. But there are about 8 or 9 players, I think, that meet that standard for me. Like guys who are Hall of Famers who debuted in the 70s who I watched play as a kid. And I obviously got to see Andre Dawson play in person with the Red Sox. So, all right. There is Wilson Alvarez, was a good pitcher for a while in the both leagues with the White Sox. I think most notably was with a few other teams too. Here is Rico Brogna with the Mets at this point. So he is a native of Fall River, Massachusetts, and he was not necessarily the best hitter. This was relatively early in his career, as you can see there. He spent a little bit of time with the Red Sox. He was with the Mets. I think he was with the Phillies as well. He was an outstanding defensive first baseman, one of the very best in the game. As you can see here, only 6'2", 202 pounds, not your typical size for a first baseman. This was an era where guys, and I feel like I've mentioned this on the channel before, I've mentioned this on social media before. This was an era where guys were, if a guy was left-handed and he was only 6'1", 6'2", whatever, he could still play first base. And this was the case with guys like Don Mattingly and Keith Hernandez in particular, and Rico Brogna is another one. These guys who played first base because they were left-handed, and they could not play middle infield. Rico Brogna was good enough defensively to be a second baseman in the big leagues, but he could not play second base because he was left-handed. And he couldn't play third base because he was left-handed. He couldn't play shortstop because he was left-handed. Some guys, Don Mattingly did play a little bit of third base in the big leagues as a lefty, and they didn't want to use him in the outfield, so he became a first baseman. He's one of the very best. Tremendous defensive first baseman, one of the best of his era. All right, here is Scott Kalienek. Don't really know him. I'm not going to spend too much time on guys that I don't know a lot about. Bernard Gilkey spent some time with the Red Sox. This is around the time that he goes to the Mets, and he is in the film Independence Day. Look that up. You probably know the scene I'm talking about. Here is Red Sox fans know all about this guy, Julian Tavares, a real character, and just was a world champion guy with the Red Sox, and I believe he was on the 07. I don't think he was on the 04 team, but he was on the 07 team. Had a rubber arm, could do everything. Pitch out of the bullpen, start, relieve, close, whatever was asked of him, he could do it. And he was kind of nuts. There's a very famous scene in the dugout of Manny Ramirez, like just petting his head, very weird. But one other thing that Julian Tavares used to always do, he would do quite a bit, was that if he had a comebacker hit to him, he would roll the ball to first base, literally. Like he wouldn't throw it, he would underhand, like he was bowling, like he was candlepin bowling or something like that. So Julian Tavares, a real character. All right, here's a great player of the era, Joe Carter. Not a Hall of Famer. Next couple tiers down, but he was hit one of the most famous home runs of all time, the home run that won the World Series in 1993 for the Blue Jays. So, fine player of his era. Here is the You Make the Play card in this pack, and again, these were this was a game. This was similar to like the Topps game cards from the '68 set. So there's a single from Joe Nunnally. Joe Nunnally entered the majors with a round trip in his first at bat. So he was a pretty good hitter. He didn't have a long career. He's been in the news recently because some stuff going on with the Pirates. He's a pitching coach or hitting coach in their system, and didn't really. There were some issues of players going to see him, and he got let go, and it was a weird thing. Here's the silver signature card in this. It's Trip Cormier with the Cardinals. Cardinals are just kind of going into a good era at this point. So anyway, all right, that's going to do it for this pack. We're going to put Andre the Hawk Dawson up at the front, one of my favorite players of all time. And so we're done. So that's going to do it for this edition of Wax Pack Wisdom. Tell us what you thought of this break. What's your favorite card we pulled today? Do you have a story about one of the players in this pack? Leave us a comment and let us know. We'd love to hear it. If you enjoyed this video, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any of our Wax Pack Wisdom content. In the video description, you will find links to where you can follow Wax Pack Wisdom on all social media channels. You'll also find a link to a list of our favorite nonprofits and charities. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, if you enjoyed this video, please consider a donation to one of those organizations. It would mean a lot to us. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Wax Pack Wisdom. Take care.